Thank you, Erica. And again, good morning or good afternoon to everyone. You should be looking at my outline here today for the webinar. I've got 4 topics. The first is just going to be a little short review and overview of some of the program and job setup features and settings that you need to be aware of before we jump into the shortcuts and advanced features, because some of them actually affect the way those are utilized. So that's what we'll be spending most of the time on today here is the shortcuts, the advanced features. I'm going to take you through different parts of the program and try to show you the areas that I think the shortcuts and advanced features are the most useful. But if you've got questions, jump in at any point about other features that you've seen or wanted some more information on or just needed to look at, don't hesitate to jump in with those too. The last 2 topics are just a couple exercises with change orders, which also lets me not only show you what's different about change orders versus new bids, but also gives me an opportunity to show you how the form letters work, whether you're using the form letters for proposals or for change orders. It's the same concept, the same functionality. And then the last thing we'll finish up with is an example of breakouts, so you know how to approach the typical situation where you've got a base bid and an alternate, or you just need to break out separate areas of the job, or both at the same time. So we'll show you how that works. So let's get started with the program setup. Oops, there we go. So this is the screen you see, of course, when you open up EBM. Under Settings and Program Settings, I run into this all the time. Under the Company tab, you need to have your company name and information here. Again, that's something that's utilized not only in the standard reports, but in the form letters that you might use for change orders or for proposals. So that's under Settings and Program Settings under the Company tab. The other part of the setup you want to look at is under Settings, Default Settings. See, there's one for jobs versus change orders. We're going to look first under Job and then under Commercial. So under job allocation, you definitely want to put your sales tax rate in here, the rate that you pay with your local suppliers typically. You could put up defaults for overhead and profit. Some people do that. And then under job settings, under extensions, this is really important that you set up your direct labor rates with your cost of labor. So in my example here, I've got a crew that's half journeymen and half helpers. These base rates represent what they see on their paycheck. And the burden can be entered as a dollar amount or percentage, which adds in the employer's portion of payroll taxes, workers' comp, general liability, benefits. So if you need help with that part of the setup, give us a call, send us an email. We can help you with that. You may need to probably talk with your bookkeeper or accountant if you haven't dug into that yet. So again, my example, and it's just an example, is I've got a composite rate of just a little over $31 an hour per hour of labor in the field. Now, before I look at the setup for change orders, look over here to the left. My default for the price column is set to target. That's the lowest price out of Epic versus the trade price, which is like a list price. And then the default on labor is the middle difficulty, column 2. Column 1 is the lowest and 3 is the highest. So now when I go to the setup for the change orders, under settings again, this time under default settings, we go down to change order, commercial. So go back to job allocation and sales tax. That should be the same. Under job settings, extensions, look over here to the left. The default I've got it set to, which is the way it comes off the shelf to a new user, is the price defaults to the trade price, the list price, the published price. Labor defaults to column 3. That's the highest number. It actually is based mostly on the NECA labor manual. And then under the direct labor rates here, I typically would recommend you put in something more about what you charge per hour on change orders. Now again, they may hold you to mark up from your actual cost, it may be a negotiated rate, but for default here, I would put in something like what you would charge per hour maybe on a service call. Because that's what change orders are. They're often like little service calls. They're in a way they're great because we can get a better markup, but they're also a nuisance because they kind of get in the way of the regular part of the job. So you got to get paid for them. One more thing in the setup. This one's also under settings, under user maintenance. I'm sorry, under default settings for takeoff, commercial. So every time you open up a takeoff module like branch circuits or feeders or devices, they all have defaults. The one that we're going to look at today, because it's most used pretty commonly, is branch circuits. So everything on this screen is used to populate the screen that you see when you open up branch circuits when you start a job. So I'm going to change my default to my conduit size to 3/4. So every time I open up a new job, it's going to default to 3/4 inch EMT instead of 1/2 inch. But you can set your preferences here for your type and sizes of wire, your type and sizes of fittings. I run into people all the time, not the majority, but there's certainly a lot of people out there that use compression fittings instead of steel more commonly. So they set the default on line 6 and line 9 to compression steel instead of set screw steel. So again, you can take a look through all these and decide what your defaults should be. Just a way of saving a couple steps when you actually get into the takeoff. Okay, let's go start a little job so we can have something to practice with under Job File and New. We're just going to call this EBM Advanced or number 1. So under work description, I'll just put new office. So if you're going to be using the form letters, whether it's for proposals or for change orders, the more you fill in here, the better, because everything on this screen can be automatically populated into a form letter, including the notes field down here for the job info. And there's 3 more notes fields up at the top here for additional notes that you want to use in your form letters. So back under job info, we definitely want to put a customer name in here. As you add new customers, it saves them, so that list just gets longer as you add more customers to there. And we'll put a square footage in, and we'll hit OK. So even though the only requirement on the setup screen is the job name, if you're going to be using the form letters, it's a good idea to populate as many of these fields as you can. Okay, we're going to go to wire and conduit takeoff, and we're going to go right to branch circuits. Again, probably one of the most heavily used parts of the program, so it's a good place to start. You'll notice my conduit size now defaulted to 3/4 inch. I'm going to come down here to the length and put in 2,600 feet. Just need to get a couple of entries in here so we have some things to work with. 130 feet, we'll hit takeoff. 130 runs, 2,600 feet. So now I'm going to change the conduit size to 1 inch. And instead of 3 number 12s, I'm going to put in a pole line. So maybe I'm going to use this for some low voltage runs for fire alarm or security or something. I'm going to put in 1,500 feet, 50 runs, and we'll hit takeoff. So one of the things you want to look for to get up to speed on the shortcuts and even to some extent the advanced features is look for things that are repetitive. If you find that you're using 1 inch EMT with a pole line on a regular, common basis, then that should be something that's easier to get to. We're going to come up here to saved assemblies, and we're going to save what's on the current screen by hitting Save Screen. Type in 1 inch EMT with pole line, and we hit OK. It adds it to the list. Now I could have put it in one of these folders, but I'll just leave it there for now. So the next time I need that, it'll be quicker to bring it up than if I did it the way I just did a second ago. But we'll come back to that. So now we're going to change the type of conduit to GRC. And we're going to put in 3 number 8s, 1 number 10, 0 out the pole line. For the overall length, we're going to put in 160 feet, 2 runs, 2 elbows. And I'm going to change the support. Let's say we're running this exposed up on the roof to a couple of rooftop units. I'm going to do the 1 inch strap. That's a unistrut strap with a rubber block and channel or unistrut, the kind that has the unistrut built into the rubber block. Now we can always add other items here by going to the tab here, hitting select items. So I'm going to add some LBs, which are under metallic fittings and elbows. under the GRC IMC fittings, and then LBs. We'll put in 2 of those. Now let's go ahead and put some grounding bushings in. I'll put 2 of those in. What's also handy here, especially when you're entering something like this that's a little bit unusual, is to put a note on the entry. Any entry can have a note attached to it. It's like a footnote by hitting the Notes tab. And I'm going to type in RTU, numbers 1 and 2. Now that little note again is going to print at the bottom of the entry like a little footnote. So we'll go ahead and hit takeoff. 10 feet of makeup. You can actually set a default for the makeup length if you want. That's in the takeoff settings again. Now, so the next entry is going to be 3/4 inch. And it's going to be 4 number 10s instead of 3 number 8s. And so we've got 150 feet there. Going to put in 2 runs, 2 elbows. The program automatically changes the fittings. And when we go to other items, if I want the same fittings, even if they're different quantities, I can hit recall last. And it plugs those in real quickly for me. I can put a note on them. Top units, numbers, 3 and 4. So if I need some more 1-inch EMT with a pull line, instead of changing all the little drop-down arrow menus or windows here, I'm going to go to Saved Assemblies. There's my 1-inch EMT, and I'm ready to go. This time I'm going to put 1,800 feet, 60 runs, and take off. Same thing if I want some 3/4 inch EMT with 3 number 12s. Come up to Saved Assemblies. It's the second one in that folder. Again, you can add to that list. You can change within the list. It's totally customizable. We're going to put 2,700 feet, 135 runs, and take off. So there's 2 of the shortcuts that'll save you quite a bit of time when you're doing your wiring. The Saved Assemblies and the Recall Last. And let me show you another place you can use the Recall Last and the Saved Assemblies. We'll go to Site. So let's say I want something for my parking lot lighting. I'm going to go to Saved Assemblies. Here's 3/4 inch with 3 number 10s. I'm going to put in 200 feet, 5 runs, and 10 elbows. So let's say I've got 5 parking lot lights. You probably don't need these PVC adapters, but I often just leave them because it's just a few pennies. When I go to the Trench tab, you can hit Select Items, Trenching, Ditch Witch or Trencher. We'll go 6 by 24, puts in the 200 feet. And then for backfill, we'll do the same 6 by 24. We're going to put takeoff. So the next one's going to have 4 wires. And it's going to be 250 feet, 5 runs, 10 elbows. So same thing when I go to the Trench tab, anytime you see the Recall Last. Now this time I'll go ahead and change the lengths, but I don't have to actually locate those items in the takeoff. So it's Saved Assemblies and Recall Last should be a lot of time saver in all these modules over here on the left. Okay. Let's go back to device takeoff again. This is a similar example to what I did earlier. If I go to device assemblies and I go to switches and I need a 4-gang assembly, I did an example with 3 switches in the introductory webinar, but let's say I need 4 switches. And I look down here, there's about 8, 10 categories that have 4 different switch combinations. But this is even more difficult now. I need a single pole, a 3-way, a 4-way, and a 3-way dimmer. So the easiest, quickest thing to do again is to go to Custom Assemblies. Now this time when I go to saved assemblies, there's a little different option I'm going to pick, which is combos. Under 4-gang, we're going to change this to one 3-way switch, one 4-way switch, but I'm going to pick a different dimmer here by going to device, and instead of leaving that old rotary style there, I still see those every once in a while. We're going to go down to dimmers, incandescent and LED, and here's a 3-way 600 watt spec grade dimmer. We'll put in one of those. Pretty quick way to build a brand new assembly. Let's say that there's 2 of those and hit takeoff. Okay, let's take a look at a couple things in the audit trail now. Again, the shortcut to the audit trail is just to double click down here in the bottom part of the screen. And we're going to come up here to the very top of the audit trail. Okay, a couple things we can do here. One is a simple thing. You can collapse the audit trail. If I right click and hit collapse, it takes every entry down to one line. It's just a lot easier to find things. Right click again, you can expand all. Now, so one of the things we can do in the audit trail is a substitution. So let's say I want to substitute that 1-hole strap with a 2-hole strap, just something simple. Now there's 2 types of substitution. This is just a simple 1-for-1. You go to substitute, you can say all, or you could have highlighted specific ones before this. We'll just say all. We'll go to supports and hangers, 2-hole straps, 3/4 inch, and say yes. So it substituted every 1-hole strap in the takeoff with a 2-hole strap. Now you could do the same thing at the end, so to speak, when you're doing the job extension. We're going to go extension spreadsheet. So we scroll down here a ways, you'll see the 3/4 inch 2-hole strap right there. Now this particular example, it's only a global thing. You can't do it in specific locations. If you want to do it in just particular places in the bid, you have to do it from the audit trail. But again, you can go down to substitute. We're going to do a beam clamp with the conduit hanger, which is under supports, under beam clamps with the conduit hanger. 3/4 inch, and yes. So that's, again, into the entire job. All right, so let's go back to where we were in the audit trail. Now, if I want to do a more powerful, more global type of substitution, we call it advanced substitution. Maybe I want to substitute all my EMT with 3/12s with MC cable. So now at the bottom you hit advanced substitution. There's actually 5 different options here. You can go from conduit to cable. You can go from cable back to conduit the opposite way. You could convert the type of cable. Maybe you took it off as regular MC cable and you want to convert part or all of it to hospital grade or to luminary cable. You could also do a conversion on the type of conduit and wire. Maybe you took it off with EMT with copper wire and you want to see what it looks like with aluminum wire. You could do that. Or you could just change the EMT fittings. Instead of changing one coupling at a time, you could do all the couplings, maybe change them from set screw steel to compression steel. This is the most common request, or the place that we use this is to convert conduit to cable. And we're going to do the entire job, so it's going to look for everything that's the same assembly as this. It doesn't matter what the quantity is, but it's the same 3/4 inch with 3/12s. If I want it to stop to confirm it, I would say yes. I'm just going to say no. So here's 12/2 MC cable with the ground. We select it or double click it. So it found 2 places to make a substitution. Now before I hit OK, take a note of these totals down here because they have not been recalculated. We've got 13,500 plus in material and 570 hours plus of labor. So when I hit OK, it'll recalculate. Takes a couple seconds. So the 13,000 dropped down to 9,000. The 700 dropped down to almost half, which is kind of what you'd expect when you convert from EMT to MC cable. Now there is an undo function here. It lets you only go back one operation, one level. So when I undo it here, I would say yes. Now the other thing I should have mentioned before we did that is if you're doing any type of value engineering or any type of changes after the fact, or even before you finalize the bid and you're worried about making changes, come up here to job file and make a copy of the job, and then do the changes in the copy. Leave the original job intact, so if you mess up or they change their mind or you change your mind on the way you did it, you can always go back to the original and start over with another copy. So making copies is a real quick, easy way to give yourself a little bit of a fallback if you mess up. Or they just change their mind. So we're still in the original job, but that's fine for now. Another thing we can do in the audit trail is we can do a multiplication. Let's say I want to multiply part or all of the takeoff because I've got 2 areas that are the same or 3 areas that are the same. If I want to do everything, I hold the shift key down, go all the way down to the bottom and click on the last line. So whatever is highlighted, you can multiply now. You can hit multiply. We'll do multiply by 3 and hit OK. Okay. I'm going to show you another example a little bit later of how to do a multiplication with different multipliers, like if you've got maybe a hotel with standard rooms and multiple suites and that kind of thing. And just one other thing for the audit trail. Let's say I want to know just how much money is in this one entry for the trenching. Whatever you highlight, you can hit quick totals down here, and it gives you a snapshot of just whatever's highlighted. That's the material, the labor, the total. Now that's cost, there's no markup, but it's got sales tax, it's got whatever your hourly rate is here that you saw in the setup. Just kind of a quick little way to get a quick little snapshot of part of the job. And then finally, there's a search feature here. Maybe I knew I'm up here at the top here, and I knew I took off PVC somewhere, but I don't remember where. You can just hit search at the bottom, and maybe I even remember it's 1 inch or 3/4 inch PVC. And it's not case specific, so it won't matter if I make that lowercase. So what didn't, 3 inch, I meant 1 3/4 inch. So it's going to go to the first place in the audit trail where it finds 3/4 inch PVC. If you look, you can always keep going forward. There you go. Okay, so there's a look at the audit trail. Let's go talk about fixtures next, because that's another place in the program we use all the time. Always start with the designation, A, A1, B, whatever it is, X, X-ray, whatever it is. If it's a 2x4 lay-in, something you use all the time, instead of going through every line here and making up your own assembly, go up to Saved Assemblies. Up near the top here, we've got an assembly. It's not a lot in it, but it gives you a good starting point. This 2x4 LED lay-in not only fills in the fixture, but it fills in a couple of seismic, or as we call them, earthquake wires or ceiling wires. Now, I don't normally put the manufacturer or catalog number in, but let's say I've got a manufacturer here that I'm concerned about that they don't make a substitution on it. I want to make sure that when I send my report to my suppliers that they use Prudential. So on this line here for notes, I'm going to type in no substitutions. Now I'm going to still add a fixture whip, and I'll even throw you a little curve again. We're going to go, instead of to the regular fixture whips, your MC, etc., there's a new tab here, relatively new, for conduit wiring cable. I can go to cable. I can come down here to the 12-2 luminary cable. And let's say I want 20 feet on each fixture. Okay. We're going to put 150 of those in. Hit takeoff. So anytime you can get a fixture started by using a saved assembly, it's going to save a bunch of steps. But another feature, which is even more useful in this particular example is the copy feature. I've got another 2x4 lay-in. It's just a different model, maybe a different output, different lens, whatever. I'm going to copy A1. Now it's copied the luminary cable because that was part of the setup, and we'll say we've got 300 of those. So in this case, the copy feature really saved a bunch of time. Again, keep in mind if it's a common fixture like an exit fixture, we can go to Saved Assemblies, go to Exit Fixture for a T-bar ceiling, we can add a whip, and we'll put the quantity of 12 in and take off. So the other question that comes up is, what if I got an oddball fixture? Again, probably not an unusual thing. You go to Saved Assemblies, you don't see anything like what you're looking for, or you go to Description and try to pull it out of the database, and it's not there. So let's say it's a 20-foot linear LED. Now, under manufacturer, I'm going to put owner furnished because it's something that they're going to provide. It's an unusual fixture. Under accessories, we can put in a box, one for each of these, and I'm going to put in a whip. Now the key here is if I've got, let's say, 5 of these, because I typed in a description here, the program assumes that you want to put the labor in on your own. You hit takeoff. So I want 2.5 hours each. Now that doesn't include the box or the whip or anything else. It's just the fixture. We'll hit OK, and it's done. If I do a report now, and I hit OK here, you can see all the fixtures that we were able to send out. With the Save button, you can save this report as a PDF file and then attach it to an email. You can print a hard copy with a printer icon. So one more thing in the takeoff here. If I want to pull something out of Epic, a lot of people don't know about this feature, which is really helpful. I can come down here to Other Takeoff and go to Temporary Miscellaneous. The Import button here pops me into Epic. So let's say I've got a Lutron dimmer I want to put in here. I can click on Manufacturer Lookup. I can come down here to L for Lutron. And we're going to come down here to Lutron Electronics. Now, I think they have a whole series that have CFL in the catalog number. It's either the catalog number or the description. We'll find out. That's not the one I'm looking for. So let's try description. There they are. See these ones down here? There's almond, there's white. That's a pretty common one. So that's the one that's rated for either compact fluorescent or for LED fixtures. We're going to export it, third button from the top right. I'm going to just add in the word dimmer there. Now you'll notice Epic doesn't put the labor in. That's fine. We're going to get to that in a minute. And I'll say I've got 3 of those. Okay, let's go do some number crunching. We're going to talk about this sorting here in a minute. I'm going to hit Extension, Spreadsheet. Remember the default on the new jobs is Target on Material, close to your cost, and column 2, middle for difficulty. But again, that's got a little bit of cushion built in. Not a lot. So that's the dimmer. Again, if you want to adjust your pricing here, I mentioned this in the last webinar, Conduit's been ramping up pretty strongly the last few weeks. But let's say I still got suppliers that can get me a better price. Just double click, make your changes. When you're done, hit refresh. So this material total, $50,000 and $2,200 in labor, that's what gets pulled into the final summary. Now before you go that, I always like to see you print out a hard copy and or save it as a PDF file. under job totals, we're going to hit OK. So there's the 50,000 from the job extension. We need to plug in a quote for the lighting. Comes down here, let's say is 25,000. If you want to put the name of the supplier in, you can do that here. So there's our total material, the 81,300. There's our hours and our rate. These are all pretty self-explanatory, and put in some overhead and some profit. Now in just a minute I'm going to show you on the change order how to use the form letters, but I like to see the print details here. Again, print out a hard copy and save it as a PDF so that you've got electronic copy and a hard copy. Okay, so let's go do a change order for this job. We're going to go to Job File. Instead of going to New, we're going to come down here to Change Order. Now you'll see this is the list of existing jobs. If the job has a plus sign next to it, that means there's already at least one change order for it. It's going to be a change order for the job we just did. So we either double click or hit Create. And we're going to just type in East Wing. Under work description, we're going to put in new feeder for East Wing. Now you'll notice in the job number, it automatically creates a job number for the change order. You can change that. If you don't like the number, just change it to whatever you want, but you don't want to change the master number because that's how it knows what it's linked to. You can see it brought in the customer from the job. So we're going to hit OK. And we're going to go down to wire and conduit and go to feeders. We're going to call it EW1 from the main service to panel EW1. We're going to leave the conduit size the same. We're going to do two conduits here. Now this would typically be where I would select for parallel, because when I do two conduits at the same time, it's going to save some labor. But remember, this is a change order. We don't have to do that, so we're going to leave it on standard or difficult. So the total overall length here is going to be 160 feet. Again, that's the distance from the main service to the panel. So because I told it two conduits, I'm going to get 320 feet of pipe. Now we still define that as one run. If I need 3 elbows per conduit, again, this is all per conduit on this page. Now to put this on a trapeze hanger, the first thing you want to do is under the support to pick a unistrut strap, because we need those per conduit. The trapeze hanger is going to be just a total. So anytime you go to other items or any of these other tabs, it's not per conduit, it's just whatever you pick, whatever you enter. So we're going to go to select items, suspended from a steel beam. We'll go 2 feet wide with 2-foot rods, and we want one of those every 8 feet. So that's how you do a trapeze hanger. We're going to hit takeoff. Again, under fittings, put your strap in. Under trapeze hangers, pick the one you want. So let's go a little bit longer on the makeup wire because it's a change order. And that's all we have on this one change order, is this one feeder. We're going to come down to reports and go to job extension. So remember the defaults we looked at the very beginning? The default on the material price is the trade price, and the default on labor is column 3. Now the material price is the one that's probably going to get flagged or get questioned the most commonly, because to some extent the customer can check the pricing. So you may want to use the target price on that if you have to. On labor, again, we can definitely justify the higher labor values because it's a change order. It does affect the rest of the job. It's not something that we incorporated into our original bid. We're just going to hit Extension Spreadsheet. So this one feeder has $13,000 in material and 140 hours of labor. If you're going to print this, either for yourself, your own records, or maybe you need to submit it to the customer, you can print a hard copy here. And again, you can save it as a PDF file. Same thing when we go to job totals. You may submit this as part of your change order. We're going to put 15% overhead, 10% profit. Now, there's probably a lot of opportunities here to, put some additional expenses in here that are very justifiable, whether it's equipment rentals, whether it's additional tools, non-productive labor, that kind of thing. But we'll leave it like it is for now. And again, if you're going to print this, you could do print summary, which gives you a short one-page report. Or this little door here will let us go back and do a detailed report if you want to give the customer more breakdowns, or again for your own use. So one place to get to the form letters is at the bottom of this screen where it says form letters. You can also get to it by going to reports here. So the one I want to show you is the one called change order. I'm going to maximize it. So you can see things that are now pulled in from the setup we looked at the beginning up at the top here. Here's the customer name. That came from the job. There's the project name and the change order number, the amount. That's all pulled in automatically. So what's happening behind the scenes here is when you go to edit template, you'll see all the fields. If it's got a bracket, it's a field that is pulling out of the job or your program setup. So let's say I want to add the customer contact name. This is the company name below it. And I want to put it right here where I've clicked my mouse. You hit Insert Field at the top. You can use Insert Image if you want to put like a logo on the form letter somewhere. But we're going to go down here to Customer Contact, insert it. Now I'm going to unbold it. Now again, I'm working on the master template. So anything I do here, if I save it, it's going to be permanent. So we're going to hit the little X at the top right. We're going to save it, say yes. So from now on, that form letter is going to have the contact name. Now, more likely is all you want to do is type in something for the change order. You'll notice there's a line here for other information. If I want to type something into that line, I want to hit Save As first, so I'm saving it under a different name. We're just going to call it CO 8-1 East Wing. Again, I can save that anywhere I want. I can save it in the default folder here. I can save it somewhere in the my hard drive where I've got a folder for the job. So now, see down here at the bottom and at the top, there's the name of the change order. Down here, we're now working on this new document. So I'm not, when I go to edit here, I'm not changing the master document. You can type in things, you can delete things, move things around. Again, when you hit the little X to close it, you'll be saving it with yes. So you could print this, print a hard copy, that's what print would do. You could also save it as a PDF file. You can, all the normal things you can do with the reports. Both really important parts of the program. Now, the change order module is not included on the standard version. It's only included on Plus and Pro. But other than that, everything I've shown you here today is something you can do with any version of the program. So my last little exercise here is a breakouts. So we're going to create a new job again, and we're going to call it the Vision Hotel. So on this job, I want to keep track of a base bid and an alternate. I want to also keep track of the different areas that I'm going to separate in the hotel. We do that by going to Job Settings. So I'm going to do the sections as the different areas of the project. We're going to have a common area, like the hallways, the lobby, maybe the entryway, that kind of a thing. I want a breakout on a standard room. I want to break out on a suite. Now I'm highlighting the common area because that's where I'm going to start. Now the breakdowns, the second tab here, I'm going to use for a base bid and an alternate. Now notice I'm not adding, I'm just editing. That way it'll stay on that first position. And then we're going to edit the second one, and that's going to be alternate 1. Again, I'm going to highlight the base bid. Now it doesn't matter what order I did that. I could have done the sections as the base bid and the alternate, could have done the breakdowns as the different areas. It's just like columns and rows on a spreadsheet. At the end, I can get everything in column 2, everything in row 1, any combination of columns and rows. It doesn't matter as long as I keep them separate. So we're going to hit OK. We're going to go to Fixtures and Devices Takeoff, and I'm going to use the Quick Branch module. So up at the top here, I'm in the common area, I'm in the base bid, and I want to do this in conduit and pipe. We're going to do EMT, 3/4 inch. So let's do some receptacles. Duplex. Scroll down here to 20 amp spec grade and a plastic plate. Let's say I've got 50 of those in the common area. So this entry below it is going to give me 15 feet of conduit wire for those 50 receptacles. To do the same thing for a GFI receptacle, I just go back one time to GFI, 20 amp spec grade, and I'll put in 5 of those. So you go through and take off everything in the common area. The feeders, the branch, the lighting, everything in the common area. So now we're going to do an entry into the standard room. So we'll go back, and I'm going to change the type of wiring here for the rooms. We're going to do them in MC cable. Just to keep it in order, we'll go to duplex, 20 amp spec grade. Let's say that there's 12 of those in a standard room. For a GFI receptacle, let's say that there's 3 of those in a standard room. So again, take off the whole standard room layout. Lighting, branch power, anything else that's in a standard room. So now we're going to make an entry into the suite. And again, we'll start with the duplex receptacles. 20 amp. We'll say that there's 15 of those, 16 of those in the standard room. And now we'll do a couple of GFIs. We'll say there's 4 of those in a suite. Again, take off everything in the suite. So now we're going to make an entry into the alternate. And let's say they want some occupancy sensors. We've got a folder down here. We'll do priced, wall mounted. Let's say there's 4 of those. Let's even change the wiring back to conduit. Now, I just made a mistake here intentionally. Those should have gone into the common area, not into the suite. That's why I wired them in conduit. But I've got them in the wrong location. The way you fix that, again, is to open up the audit trail by double-clicking. This will happen commonly when you're using breakouts. It's easy to just get on a roll and put a bunch of stuff, and you can move as much as you want here. I'm highlighting those last 2 entries for the wall occupancy sensors and the wiring. Then you just come down here to change breakout. This is like cut and paste. We're going to move them from the suite to the common area, just that easily. You hit OK, and they're done. Now, if you're not sure where something's located, like these wall-mounted occupancy sensors, when you click on any line in the audit trail, it'll show you up at the top here the section and breakdown. You could even go to a third level with divisions, even a fourth level with the drawing reference. So you can get kind of complicated. But every line in the audit trail, here's the GFIs. Those are in the suites in the base bid. So if you go up and down the audit trail, these headings change. Now that's important because when you go to the reports, that's how it knows how to sort things. So we're going to go to reports, going to go to job extension. So instead of sorting by phase, which is the default, I want to look at the different areas, which in this job are the sections. And I want to save this first report under its own name. I'm going to hit Save As. I'm going to call it Typical Areas. And then I'm going to get a report with the breakdowns, the breakouts for those three different areas. So there's the total for the standard room, then the total for the suite, and then the grand total for the whole job is this $2,000, 124 hours. If we go straight from here to job totals, and we'll put 10% overhead and 10% profit. So the thing to be aware of here is that unless you tell it otherwise, everything is included here, including the alternate. Even though I broke it out by area, I did not say to not include the alternate. If I need a separate breakout on the alternate, I've got to come back here to job extension, change the sort to just the breakdown, and uncheck the base bid. I could do it either way. I could do the base bid only or the alternate only. But if I want to do the alternate only, we hit Save As, call it Alternate 1, hit Save. So that's just the stuff for the wall-mounted sensors. We're going to go to Job Totals. Now it starts a whole brand new summary sheet. So if you're going to give them an adder for the alternate, you would put overhead and profit. If you're giving them a deduct, maybe we don't give them back the overhead and profit. Now, if I go back to that first report we just did a minute ago, the typical areas. So again, if this is a hotel, we probably have multiples of each area other than the common area. The way you put those in is back on job extension. On this first window here, we're going to go to quantity multipliers. We're going to put in 90 of the standard rooms and 10 of the suites. Then after you hit OK, I would save this again as its own report. We'll call it Typical Areas with Multipliers. We'll hit Save. So now everything's been multiplied out. See how much MC cable we've got in the standard rooms. If we go to job totals again, it starts a brand new summary sheet. We'll do 10% overhead, 10% profit. So all the different reports, all the different versions are still up here. I can flip back to the alternate. I can flip back to the typical areas with multipliers. It's a real powerful part of the program. You got to be, you got to think it through sometimes. Make sure that you've got what you want in the different breakouts. But it's a real powerful feature, especially the multiplier when you run across that. Yeah, it could be typical offices. It could be typical restrooms. On a school, it might be typical classrooms. You can see those kind of things all the time. If you could give me just a minute, I want to tell you about the other training options we provide. So you've got 3 other types of training available. You can purchase additional one-on-one online training. It's interactive. In other words, you're doing the work. You're at your computer running your software at your desk, and we link in over the internet so we can see your screen with the same kind of software. The on-site training, again, is hands-on. We come to your office or you come to ours, but you're not watching somebody else do a presentation. You're actually running the programs. On-site training can be any level, any number of users, anywhere in the country. I've been just about everywhere you could imagine. Little towns, big towns, everywhere. And And then finally, we also offer classroom training. We have typically one major city a month. Next week we'll be in Houston. Next month we'll be in Denver. In the classroom training, we have introductory training, advanced training, and different options there. And then next week in Houston, we're doing something a little bit unique. We're going to be doing the same thing in July in Austin, Texas, but we're going to provide an estimating fundamentals class where you can go if you just want to get the basics of estimating. Maybe you've got somebody that's been working in the field and doesn't even know where to start. But we take them from all the basics of how to do a manual takeoff, how to do a computerized takeoff, and how to even do an electronic takeoff where there's no paper. So we take you through the whole little progression of what's available in estimating. Thank you again. Have a good day.